All right, we are back with the last series here, or session on the ins and outs of emotions. I am Meghan Heffner, the Chemical Health Specialist at Youth Service Bureau. And at the Youth Service Bureau, we help youth and families learn the skills they need to be more successful at home, in school, and throughout their community. Some of the services that we offer at Youth Service Bureau are youth-focused family counseling, diversion services, including awareness classes, youth and family education, school-based chemical health, and we're located in Cottage Grove, Stillwater, and Woodbury. You can check us out by phone, website, email, and Facebook. So once again, the objectives of this podcast series on emotions is to guide students to be able to name their emotions, gain coping skills, and to share available resources in the community. And so the last and final podcast here is when we are contemplating if our kids might need a little bit more help than what we can give them at home. So seeking out professional resources in the community. And what we really need to come back to is social emotional development. And as we all know, kids develop differently and are on their own paths, but hopefully this will be help guide and point parents in the direction and help them answer some of those questions if they're contemplating professional service to seek out a therapist or other resources. So to begin, social and emotional development means how children start to understand who they are, what they are feeling, and what to expect when interacting with others. As we have learned from science over time, is that the first 5 years of life are a period of incredible growth in all areas of a child's development. And we as parents and caregivers play the biggest role in social emotional development. And as I mentioned, all children develop and grow at their own pace. So we know that kids develop at their own place, but there are some environmental impacts or mental health impacts that affect a child's development, along with some other circumstances that will alter or stunt their development in the areas of social emotional. So one of those impacts is trauma. As we know, trauma impacts social emotional development, and trauma can include prenatal drug exposure, homelessness, abuse and neglect, foster care, disruptions in attachment, domestic violence, chemical use, and mental health. Behavioral and emotional needs are, or we know that we need to seek out help when behavioral and emotional needs are not parallel to what is considered developmentally appropriate. And as we know that, as I mentioned, kids develop at their own pace, but there are some typical age ranges where children should be developing, meeting those milestones. And you can look up those different milestones specifically to social emotional development at Help Me Grow Minnesota. And the link is provided there. And we really want to start asking ourselves those questions earlier and getting those services earlier, because that's when we can ensure the best developmental outcomes for our children. But I know that sometimes parents hesitate when wanting to seek help because of the stigmas around mental health, especially the stigma around parents who have children with mental health concerns. As one parent who had experienced mental health struggles and concerns with her own child, she said that we all live in a society where the stigma around mental illness can stop us in our tracks. It's far more serious than a lack of understanding. People repeat things to you that cut you to the quick, and you learn not to tell them what you're going through. And so parents, we know that it's really hard and can be really difficult to make that decision to move forward with seeking mental health support for your child. When you do get to that point, it's important to really do your research on where you're going and who you will be seeing. And so some questions that you can ask yourself are the expertise of the therapist. What have they worked in? What are their expertises? What have they done for most of their career? What has their therapy based on. And then style and types of therapy are huge too, whether it's play therapy or things as specific as equine therapy or narrative therapy. There's all sorts of different types of therapy that might work best or better for your child. And then, of course, demographics come into play. Would your child prefer a male or female? Would they prefer someone of their own race or religious background? And so some of these things you might be able to ask your child before. And sometimes if kids aren't open to it, that you'll really have to ask those questions yourself. And as we believe here at Youth Service Bureau, is that the family is very much a part of the therapy as the youth, because it involves every single person in that family unit when a child is struggling with mental health. And just a special note that children under 5 will require a therapist who has a special licensure to work with children who are under 5. And as we know, children under 5 come with all sorts of big emotions, and so it can be really complicated and hard to understand, hard to figure out if we need to find a therapist, and when we do, a therapist who really gets our young ones. So when we have decided to go to therapy, how do we tell our kids, especially kids who are reluctant to go to therapy? And I have listed in the PowerPoint here, and will be available afterwards as well, just some questions and things to contemplate in a guide to on how to speak to your child who might be reluctant to go to therapy. And as we've noted, you can certainly come to us at Youth Service Bureau. We have a whole wealth of knowledge and very just wonderful therapists who have all different sort of expertise in styles and demographics. You can certainly go to your family doctor or visit Fast Tracker Minnesota to find some additional therapeutic resources for your child. And so once you have established, or maybe kind of within that same time frame of finding a therapist, we really know that our informal support are the people who are going to be with us in the day-to-day and in the thick of it, and outside of those therapy appointments, who's going to be with us in those moments. And that can be really hard for parents, especially when they're feeling lonely and they're feeling that stigma of having a child who has mental health concerns. And so I thought this was really powerful quote by a parent who found it so profound to find other parents who were in those same circumstances. If she said, if we are lucky, we find other parents like us. For many, it's both difficult and a relief to say my child is ... But this time the other person says, yes, I know, it's like that at my house too. We share, we cry, we laugh. We applaud each other's successes and commiserate over the failures. Most of all, we brainstorm, we point each other in the right direction, and we slowly make progress. And we are not quiet, at least until we leave the room. And I just thought that was so profound. And so valuable as we really seek out support for our family, for ourselves, and for our children. And so our homework for this session is to, one, if you are looking to look for some therapeutic resources for you and your child. But if you're not quite there yet, certainly identify those people who are going to be in your life to help you make it through the difficult times. And as I know we often mention here, it takes a village to raise a child. And so to find those 5 caring adults, not only for your child, but for yourself. And then go back to them and say, this is how I need you. I need you to meet with me for coffee, or can you please go get us groceries? Or can you come over for 5 minutes so I can take a walk? Who are those people going to be in your day-to-day life that can help you through it? And maybe when you start therapy, who are those people who are going to be your at-home therapists and your day-to-day therapists? And I know that parents are overwhelmed with information and just one more thing to do, one more thing to read. But if you are looking for resources and are able to get some time in for yourself, here are a list of parenting books that really meet parents where they're at and and really understand the difficulty that you're going through and offer the support and the resources that you might be looking for. And you can certainly check those out at your library or on Amazon and things like that. So once again, stay tuned with us. Check us out on YouTube, our website. Share the information you've been learning with others. It's really important because we know that if we're struggling, there's somebody else out there too that's struggling. And us parents really need to come together and really help each other and build each other up. So send them our way and build that network for yourself. And I hope you enjoyed this podcast series on emotions and that it was helpful to you and your little ones.